Boda, good morning. Welcome to this Robert Owen conference, the day that we commemorate the fantastic work and the legacy of Robert Owen, that great Welshman whose early ideas on cooperativism, trade unionism, and socialism contributed so much to our current day thinking, particularly in the field of cooperativism, work that is renowned across the world. I'm really sad that I can't be with you today. I've attended the last few conferences. This is due to personal reasons, but I'm very grateful that the organisers have given me just a couple of minutes to talk about my work in supporting Ukraine at this moment in time. At a time when Ukraine is really at the front line of democracy in Europe, fighting Russian fascism. Wales has a historic link with Ukraine. It was Welsh miners and engineers who set up the city of Donetsk, which was originally known as Yuzovka, named after John Hughes, which we now know as Donetsk. And the link between the Ukrainian mine workers and Welsh mine workers is historic. And that is why so much of the support we give that goes direct to the front line, every single penny, goes via the Miners' Union to their members who are in the frontline units fighting Russian fascism. I've been over with colleagues from across political parties to Ukraine. I've also been involved in delivering of a large number of vehicles and support to those trade unionists who are currently fighting Russian fascism, who are defending their freedom and their country. In order to do that, we need to raise funds. We've taken about 39 vehicles over, and we have another 5 vehicles we plan to take over in July if we can raise the money that's necessary for them. Medical aid, but aid that also supports them in their frontline defence of their country. You'll see below the link to a GoFundMe account that we've set up. I would ask all of you to please think very seriously about the importance of what is happening in Ukraine at this moment in time, the importance of Ukraine actually winning, but also the importance of supporting those workers, those trade unionists in Ukraine who are really at the front line of freedom at this moment in time. Please contribute to the GoFundMe, please spread the word, and thank you for your support and for your solidarity in supporting Ukraine. Diolch yn fawr.
Thanks to Mick Antoniw MS, who gave those introductory words in respect of the situation in Ukraine. Just a little reminder as we are about to start formally, it's very much like a game of football. It's a game of 2 halves. So in the first half, we'll have all the presentations, and in the second half, we'll be taking questions. We will ask people if they want to record a question, just to write the word in the chat, question, and then type the question in. We will pick those up, and then we will make sure that they are dealt with in the second half. We have 3 excellent presenters, and we had invited Hugh Aranka-Davies to chair the event. Unfortunately, family business has called Hugh away. We've got fantastic support from Lesley Griffiths MS, and we'll ask her a couple of questions before she has to leave us. I will continue chairing the first half, and in the second half, Mary Ann Brocklesby will deal with the panel and Q&A. So at this point, without further ado, I will hand over to our good friend Steve Witherden MP to say a few words about this currently informal annual Robert Owen Day event.
Thank you, Chris, and many thanks for asking me to say a few words before this meeting commences formally. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm the first ever Labour MP, Member of Parliament for Montgomeryshire and Glyndŵr, the first Labour representation that Montgomeryshire has ever had. She was the only constituency in Wales that never had a Labour MP prior to July. And my constituency includes both the birthplace, place of death, and the grave of that great Welsh cooperator, Robert Owen. And it gives me great pleasure and my constituents a good deal of pride to see Robert Owen celebrated with his own day of events. Many thanks to those who organised this and other annual Robert Owen events. Many people still think that the peak of the cooperative movement was in the past, perhaps with the Rochdale pioneers, but I'm sure we all know that cooperatives are springing up on a regular basis in our communities. Perhaps we've yet to reach the peak of cooperation. The movement in Wales has been well supported by Welsh Government and the funding and organisations it has put in place. And I'd also like to pay tribute to Compass for their support. They've given to so many organisations, helping them set up cooperatives. Now, I'm not going to wax lyrical about the life and achievements of Robert Owen. I'm sure that's going to be part of the programme of events today. Suffice to say that Robert Owen was a pioneer of his time, whose words, they've lost no power today. And I've written down a quote. "There is but one mode by which man can possess in perpetuity all the happiness by which his nature is capable of enjoying. That is by the union and cooperation of all for the benefit of each." Or as my favourite t-shirt says, "Get rich or try sharing," which I really should have worn today. So I wish you all a very, very productive conference today. I hope fervently that we can work towards an annual Robert Owen Commemoration Day in Wales to embed his principles further in Welsh culture. And that would truly be for the good of all. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you very much, Steve. That's much appreciated, saying those helpful words about Robert Owen. We've been doing these events for a number of years now, always around mid-May, which is the closest to the 14th of May 1771, which is the birth date of Robert Owen. So I'll hand over at this point to Lesley Griffiths, who I should explain to everybody. Hugh Aranka Davis was going to be here. Family arrangements have taken him away from us, unfortunately, but we hope everything's okay. And Lesley was the Minister for Rural Affairs, I hope I get this right, for the period 2016 to 2024, Lesley. Yeah. So I think this is an issue which is probably close to your heart. And rather than asking you to chair the event, because we know that you'll be on your way shortly, we just wanted to put two questions to you, which will help get us all started. Then we'll come to our three speakers. The two questions, Lesley, for you to be aware of are: one, how do we cajole, or I could put nudge or encourage, major food manufacturers, retailers and caterers to avoid or eliminate ultra-processed food from our food system? And the second question, what policy or implementation strategy should the Welsh Senedd and possibly the UK government, but you don't have influence directly over them, pursue in the light of the ultra-processed food time bomb? So I'll hand that to you, and then I will thank you in advance for participating and helping us. And I'll remind everybody, turn your camera off if you don't want to be part of the recording. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Chris. Bore da pawb, good morning, everyone. So as Chris said, I'm Lesley Griffiths. I'm the member of the Senedd for Wrexham. And yes, I was the Minister for Agriculture, Rural Affairs and the Environment at some point as well during those 8 years. So food and drink was obviously within the portfolio. So when I was doing a bit of prep last night for today, it was really interesting to see strategies that, I brought in, and then strategies that I hadn't quite finished. have now been brought in as well. So it is something very close to my heart. As Chris said, Hugh's had to withdraw, unfortunately, and I've got a constituency event at 11:15. So I'm just literally here to say a few words, and I'll certainly answer those two questions, Chris. But I'm really pleased to be here. I hadn't realised it's my mum's birthday on May the 14th. Not quite 1717, but yeah, we had her birthday this week. So it's really good to be with you on this very special day. And thanks to David. I can see David on camera for organising, and for you, Chris, for chairing. I'm assuming you're chairing at short notice as well. As you say, the focus of today's event, I think, is a really important topic. Indeed, Chris and I are in the same constituency party, and we had a discussion about a motion going to conference just last week, didn't we, Chris? And I think, you know, it really was a very, very serious and constructive debate. But we all recognise more needs to be done, because I think you used the word time bomb in your second question, and you know, I feel it really is that. So it's a very important topic. I've no doubt that all the speakers today will be very thought-provoking. I think I've heard everybody speak previously. I think we're hearing UPFs increasingly more in daily life, where you hear it down the pub, you hear it in cafes, you hear it in supermarkets, and you see it on social media, and it's very much in our policy making decisions. And I'm sure Steve discusses it in Parliament, as we do in the Senate. The impact of the prevalence of UPFs, I don't think, can be underestimated. It affects our health, it affects our environment, and I think it's something that really requires careful consideration. Particularly, I think more information has come to light over the past decade. I remember many years ago, probably, well, I'm thinking now my eldest daughter's 34, and it was certainly before she was born, a cousin of mine always looking at ingredients and things before she gave them to her children. And she was viewed as being, you know, a bit strange to do that. But was she prescient, you know, way before her time. So I think, you know, the fact that we've got so much new information now means, as policymakers, we really need to be giving it careful consideration. Before I became an MS, I worked in the hospital for many years. So the health policy implications of the topic are really important to me. I'm very, very interested in, and I'm now sit on, since I came out of government, I do sit on the Health and Social Care Committee, because that is really my area of interest. So I don't think concerns about the quality of food that we eat are new. I've just given you an example of, you know, how 35 years ago I knew somebody looking into that. But I think the commitment to have ethical food production and consumption is absolutely rooted in your cooperative movement founding principles, and that's evolved alongside developments and science and technology. But I think the prevalence of UPFs in today's world is what's driving a lot of academic research. There's a lot of new research coming out, and that obviously is then having an impact on policymakers. I'm really pleased the Welsh Government's vision for the food and drink industry is to create a strong and vibrant sector with a global reputation for excellence. But underpinning that, and that was something I did bring in, was to have in Wales one of the most environmental and sustainable responsible supply chains in the world. And I do think that has been achieved. And that social responsibility must extend to the food that is produced and consumed in Wales, and it must promote healthy eating. And then there was the Food Matters Wales document that was published just last year, and that's got a specific section regarding promoting healthy lives. And just last month, the Welsh Government's Community Food Strategy was published, and if you haven't read it, I would urge you really to have a look at it, because there's a number of initiatives within that to try and promote and increase the amount of fruit and veg in the public sector supply chains. And again, it's about supporting our horticultural sector, which is a very, very small part of the agricultural sector as a whole, going forward. So I was just wanted to say a few words, Chris, if that's okay. And now I will turn to the two questions. So the first question you asked me was around cajoling major food manufacturers, retailers and caterers to try and eliminate UPFs from the food system. So I think From a policy making point of view, it's really important that you take an evidence-based approach. And I mentioned that there's a lot more research out there. And I know that Welsh Government looked to the Scientific Advisory Committee on Nutrition, and they did a big review, I think it was about 2 years ago, on processed foods. And I think the conclusion they came to was that we needed to look at the evidence with caution, particularly around if we suddenly started restricting food that was based on processing rather than nutritional, so things that we viewed as being healthy, for instance, so wholemeal bread or high fibre breakfast cereals. So I think the Welsh Government is looking, obviously I'm not here to speak on behalf of the Welsh Government, but my understanding is the Welsh Government is looking at that, and there's going to be further advice coming to them in relation to that. The committee Scientific Advisory Committee is also looking at the topic of UPFs as a sort of separate entity, all on its own, because of the importance of the subject. So again, the government is waiting for that advice, but I think they do absolutely understand. I think Hugh's got a very good understanding of the importance of this issue. I mentioned the community food strategy in my opening remarks, and I think we really need to encourage stakeholders to work together. So if you look at the public sector and the funding that is spent in the public sector on food, so you look at school meals, hospital meals, and I remember when I was health minister trying to procure Welsh lamb, and it was just so much more expensive than New Zealand lamb that we just couldn't do it. So I think the community food strategy is about making sure, and of course procurement rules have changed since we left the European Union, so perhaps it is something that we could do that. But I really wanted to, when I was bringing that together, and Hugh's obviously taken it forward, was to try and encourage people to, buy food far closer to home, that it was produced far closer home, to try and support our farmers. And as I mentioned, the horticultural sector, which is such a small sector in Wales, I think it was about 1% of the agricultural sector, but it's now about 3%. So, we've more than doubled, but we need to ensure that. I mean, we're never probably going to grow, mangoes on the west coast of Wales, but I think if we can, produce more fruit and veg, that would be really good for everybody in Wales. The second question was about the UPF time bomb and the policy and implementation strategy. Reducing consumption of high sugar foods, high salt foods, high fat foods is already part of the dietary advice by Welsh Government. I'm sure you'll all be aware of Healthy Weight, Healthy Wales. And I know you're going to have a speaker later looking at UPFs in education settings. And again, I know it might be this week that the Cabinet Secretary for Education is giving an update on that to the Labour group and then to the Senedd. Again, huge amount of research underway that will help inform policy decisions, and research has been commissioned from the National Institute for Health and Care Research, and that is specifically looking at the impact to measure the impact of UPFs, looking at public perception of UPFs, because everybody has a different view of UPFs, and also to understand the cost implications of reducing UPFs in the UK diet, because I'm sure we all appreciate that is obviously a factor for many people. The Future Generations Commissioner, when he took up post, which is probably about 2 years ago now, he recognised the importance of the issue and works very closely with the Welsh Government in relation to food. And I think that really is testament to the Welsh Labour Government's commitment to tackling societal challenges. Wales have absolutely led the way on this, and I think will continue to do so. But of course, 12 months from now, we've got a Senedd election, so I think it is very much watch this space, because who knows what could come out there. But obviously, from a Welsh Labour point of view, we need to make sure our manifesto absolutely sets out for the public of Wales what we would do in this space. So thank you very much for inviting me. I'm sorry Hugh wasn't with you. I'm sorry you had to substitute, but it's really good to be with you, and I hope you have a very, very successful day. Diolch fawr iawn.
Thank you so much, Lesley. That's much appreciated. And you've really opened up the variety of areas which I think, will want to carry on and discuss. Ladies and gentlemen, we won't be taking questions at this point. We're going to release Lesley We'll go on to our three presenters, and in the second half, we'll be taking questions. Please put your questions in the chat, but just make a note saying question, and then myself and David Smith will pick up the questions, and we'll try and invite people to ask their questions of the panel in the second half, chaired by Mary Ann Brocklesby.